My name is Bianca Lopes. I'm the co-founder of Talle. I have a deep expertise in identity and data, and I've been working in the financial services sector, helping them change the way we speak and communicate about these things. And today we're going to be talking about what have the gentlemen here learned in their organizations during the COVID time about KYC, about AML, about identity, about the foundation of the things that make the financial services work throughout this process of COVID and beyond. So without further ado, I'll pass it on for you guys to introduce yourselves. Javier, you want to start?
Yeah, sure, Bianca. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here with all the panelists. My name is Javier. I'm the CEO and co-founder of FacePhi. It's a Spanish company listed in the stock exchange market in Spain and in Paris, specialized in facial recognition and digital onboarding processes and focused on the banking sector. So somehow we will be able to share some of our thoughts and experiences in the last months that we've been crazy with the pandemic, and my pleasure to try to share some view with my colleagues.
Super. Martin, do you want to tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll go to Alex and Warren, and then I'll ask Warren a question.
Yeah, sure. Hey, my name is Martin Markiewicz. I'm Polish, great to be home, great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Silent Aid, and we help banks combat money laundering and terrorism financing using artificial intelligence. We're a Singaporean company. We have offices here in Warsaw. We have an office in London, in New York. And yeah, this is a very interesting year for us, and I would love to share all this stuff with you guys.
Great, Alex. Aleksander.
I remember the sequence, Hello, Aleksander Naganowski. I work in the Polish office of Mastercard, and actually I've been quite busy recently because my responsibility is our user experience and security in e-commerce, payment innovations, and cybersecurity services. And it's all been really extensive subjects recently, so I'm looking forward to the questions.
Warren, tell me a little bit about you, and then tell us a little bit about when you're talking about compliance and what the work you do. What was the situation? Paint the picture for people, not only what you do now, but what did it look like before COVID?
Okay, hi, yeah, thanks everybody. So my name's Warren Russel. I'm CEO and founder of W2. We provide a platform that manages the regulatory compliance supply chain. We're based in the United Kingdom, but we are actually just opening an office in Krakow. So we'll be over in Poland in the new year, hopefully. Yes, exactly. So we, as I say, we provide a software platform that we've spent the last 10 years trying to convince everyone that they need to move to technology to manage their compliance and KYC processes. And it always amazes me how, we can put a man on the moon, but there are a lot of large organizations that still think the way to deal with things is pens and paper. And actually, technology is the way to solve things. And I think, what the pandemic really crystallized during this process was a lot of businesses were moving to tech, but they were moving to sort of an old style tech, on-premise installed solutions. And we had a bit of an influx of people contacting us going, look, we're using tech, but all our tech's in the office and we're not allowed in the office. We've got to work from home. How can we access all this stuff? How can we deliver? So I think one of the key learnings is actually looking at the appropriateness of the technology. And we've started to see people taking a lot more care in the conversations that they're having with us about the types of tech that they need to deliver the solutions that they need to do through what is a complex process. KYC, anti-money laundering is a very complex process.
So when they saw these changes, Warren and Martin, maybe we'll go to you because we talked about this when we were preparing to make this experience fun for you watching out there. You worked a lot in the transaction space. So other than realizing, crap, I need my technology to be totally on the cloud and I need my processes to be on the cloud, which I think is what Warren was sharing with us. What have you seen in the space of what our introduction was, which is the increase on the need for risk monitoring and the increase on sort of suspicious activity that the banks particularly have had to endure. And I know you work with Standard Chartered quite broadly and has been a client of yours for quite some time. Tell us a little bit more about that transformation of not only realizing, holy crap, I need my tech online, but what do I need, and why did this become really important?
Yeah, so before this whole pandemic, and we started our company because we thought that the problem of financial crime and fighting financial crime is not solved. So like everyone is working hard, buying technology, putting out of work, but the problem is nowhere close to be like solved. Like, you know, like Kim Jong-un still doesn't look like he's on a diet, still drive the fancy car, like everything around, like it seems like it's not, like everything that we do is not really working 100%. So we're going to these customers, like many large banks that we started working with, many huge deployments that we did. And before COVID, we had this pitch. We were telling them, you're going to save some money. That's one benefit. You're going to like reduce this risk almost to zero. Like that's another, like it's a win-win-win situation. And, you know, like, and you'll be, and this was working. But when the whole lockdown started, it turned out that whatever the alternative was, like whatever the business as usual was, like stopped working. Like, you know, like everything got clinched while financial institutions remained open. So for all the bad guys trying to exploit financial system, it's like Christmas. Like you just want to do something, you just see that your opponent's guard is down. Yeah, like, you know, so like we doubled our business in the past few months, like just because like our customers just, you know, like people around like realized, okay, so it's not just a good idea to do some stuff. In some cases, it's the only idea to kind of like protect themselves and move forward. So we see a lot of initiatives that banks are doing like with us. That's kind of cool. We see a lot of initiatives that they're doing internally, and the way they're pushing this right now is completely different than it was just a year ago. Like we get approvals to do stuff in 3 weeks, and you know, like half a year ago, like, you know, like at the beginning of this year, I wouldn't even dream of asking for permission to do some stuff. You know, like they're just cutting through this red tape just to enable things. Even though before that it was impossible. So like I see this as a huge change, like before and after the, you know, like the COVID situation.
So other than allowing startups to, so I think one thing that I heard loud and clear is that the ability, the realization of corporates of what you all have been preaching for quite some time about the need to look at compliance and AML as something nimble, as something not as business as usual, and as something digital. So now that we talked about corporates, Aleksander, you work at Mastercard and you have been paving the way on talking about displacement of cash for way before we talked about cash for perhaps safety, public safety and security reasons. What can you tell us about how that migration has perhaps accelerated, or what is the learning you have had from moving to, we're still physical humans, but towards a digitally accelerated space?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the question. And I would echo, I would start that with the echoing of what Warren said, that actually, you know, this whole thing takes place when we also are facing work in a completely different environment. So it's really difficult because you need to process all these decisions, not sitting together as a team in your corporation, but actually, you know, on the calls and all the time and trying to make your decisions effectively. So what we've been preaching both online commerce, digital commerce, and also online digital payments in the physical space. And so it all accelerated at the same time. So of course, we know that there is some part of the transmission possible on the cash. So the displacement of cash and also acceleration of mobile payments, not only the contactless payments with plastic cards, but also mobile payments is really very significant. We can see, well, Poland already used to be the contactless country. We have more than 90% of all Mastercard transactions done with contactless. But what's accelerating is that people tokenize their cards, they use their mobiles more and more because this is something that they hold in their hands, and it gives them the most control over the financial sphere. But then on the other hand, the instant and sudden move from physical to digital, even for certain segments that used to be quite, let's say, conservative, not mentioning groceries, but clothes and many other items that you would now purchase online, this put a very, very significant change on the whole industry, including financial, of course, and including payments. And this was all taking place very, very fast. So consumers had to adapt very fast as well. And this is where we get to what others already mentioned. Martin mentioned that, now it's no longer that you invent your password to your account that is basically your whatever Facebook account, which still may be very important for you, but it's only, you know, your messages, right, or your wall. But then now your password is basically guarding your identity, because in the digital world you need to have your identity to be able to, you know, use services, to buy services. It's guarding your money, because more and more you would connect your financial means to certain accounts at the shops or at the marketplaces to be able to shop easier, because you're shopping more and more. So this puts a huge significance in the cybersecurity and in account takeover protection and integrations that may expose you to a lot of fraud as well. So this is where we see a lot of discussions and a lot of good things happening in the meaning, just like you mentioned, that people realize that the things we have been educating are now really vital, and you can see why we've been educating.
I know, and in this path of education, I have a long story and a long history with Javier, so I'll move it to Javier. Javier, we've been talking about identity and try to preach to people that this is the foundation of any infrastructure when it comes to financial services. It becomes really hard to protect who we don't know or what we don't know. And FacePhi has been leading on that change on bringing identity verification to a different level and allowing people to access to things like pension and COVID relief funds and account openings. Tell us a little bit about the growth of what you've seen and what has surprised you through this past year that we've been through, and kind of maybe give us a little bit of an insight into the future, and then I'll come back around to all of you to provide a parting thought of what the future should look like. Javier? I might have lost Javier. And if I did, that's okay. I know that we can come back and talk about a huge part of the work that I've been doing with Javier and FacePhi has been around explaining to people the importance of having a strong identity infrastructure so you can monitor the systems. And I think a lot comes down, I think, to literacy. So I'll turn the question back around to you guys in the panel to tell me, oh, Javier, did you come back?
He was moving for a minute.
Sorry guys, this is awesome when you have multiple people in multiple countries. I will ask you guys, what do you think the future is? I'm a huge, massive proponent at Talle about literacy and about explaining to people what we do. And I think we're really bad in our industry, particularly us. We like talking in jargon, complicated terms. AML 5 derivative is hitting, Section 58.A is hitting, beneficiary owners, which is all about identity. Tell me what you guys think of the future, and what do you think that you have learned that you're taking to the next step?
So
anybody?
Okay, Warren, go ahead. Go ahead. You win.
I was going to say, I think I see is that people are going to be more embracing of change. I think what the pandemic has brought is, you know, none of us ever thought that we'd be working at home for months on end with kids running around and dogs barking and what have you. And actually, we've realised that it can work. So I think what us as technology providers will find is that there'll be a lot more, well, I'm hoping at least, there'll be a lot more receptiveness to what we're bringing to offer. And I think a lot of the institutions that are out there, financial services, betting and gaming, banking, whatever it might be, I think we'll find that they will embrace the technology much more than they have done in the past.
I hope for that.
I agree. And I
know you do a lot of work around literacy, so.
Yeah, exactly. And I would echo this also on the consumer level, so on the users level, right? There's actually two things. You mentioned those dogs barking. Actually, everyone is now much more busy and much more overwhelmed with everything's going on, you know, around, which means you're searching to simplify things. You're searching for things that are comfort, that are you know, convenient. But this cannot and must not compromise the security. And this is where huge and actually very complex innovations come to help you not to compromise security when you try to be comfortable and you try to provide good user experience, right? So this is where all the behavioral biometrics with all the proactive measures that you can take to monitor whether the user that is actually calling through this fiber to your server is actually the same user that it used to be, and that you can rely on what you see as your systems see.
I couldn't agree more. Martin, what is your hope for the ML space, and what are you seeing in future trends here for transaction monitor?
So I think that our space, our space is a hard space, because this is one of these spaces that you kind of cannot afford to make any mistakes. It's one of these use cases that making mistakes is extremely costly. You have use cases like this around us, from heart surgery to some kind of all these places that you don't want to accept that there might be any mistake. So because of that, because of this setup, there's a lot of people around you. Now they're on Zoom, but before that they were all face to face, that may have objections to the technology, to the approach and everything. And first of all, you cannot just convince them without solid evidence. So your design of your solution needs to be designed in a way to address all their objections and all the worries. But then again, it's a lot of discussions and a lot of time spent on educating and on discussing and just basically bringing everyone on board, so that they understand what you're doing and they understand what's good about it, what's bad about it, what are the upsides, what are the downsides. I came to this meeting right off a 2-hour session with one of the largest Wall Street banks. We're preparing to go live there before the end of the year. And there was 60 people on the Zoom call, and we're discussing our strategy, when it comes to explaining some of the things that our system does to regulators around the world. So this is a collaborative thing that we know how we design things. We are here to tell them what's possible really these days, and we have examples to prove it in other places. So, but it's all a collaboration. It's all something, but you have to have this story lined up well. You have to address all the angles. It's a lot of work. So it's not only coding, but making sure that what you're coding actually makes sense, and that you can always pass this story forward so that someone else can use it and benefit of it.
And I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of the times when we hear the word literacy, we think of the word charity, right? We think of the word of inclusion, and we think about, oh, it's so cute and so nice. I often get that because I'm a girl and people go, oh, cute. And I think it's really important that people in the industry talk about the importance of this from an ROI perspective, the importance of upskilling banks particularly, and consumers who don't consume. As Aleksander said, consumers don't need to wake up and shouldn't and will compare banks and other companies to their last best experience. They're not going to wake up worried about the bot, the fraudster. They're just going to expect to work seamlessly. And I think the banks have a huge amount of upskilling that is required from you guys in terms of what are all the nuances, what is possible. And maybe with a parting thought, will the world go totally global or maybe local? Because I think that these problems are abroad. So what is the vote over here?
It should go global.
Yeah, well, for sure, cybersecurity is a global thing. It's not local.
Amazing.
You need to be prepared for global, right? In terms of the business, I think we have more and more means, digital means for locals to play good, relevant role as well.
That's incredible. That's amazing. I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you have followed. These are incredible leaders. You can follow them on LinkedIn. You can follow Talle and me on LinkedIn and connect. This is a conversation for probably about an hour and a half, not 30 minutes, so we can dive into all. So stay tuned. As I understand, most of our participants here will be doing webinars explaining in more detail their solution, what they stand for, and how you can sort of join the bandwagon on bringing integrity, trust, and transparency to the financial services sector. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure, and I hope you continue to excel at everything you do. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
very
bye.
Nice session.